I'm Michael Doyle, the editor-in-chief of marathonhandbook.com. Check that out, guys. See, I introduced myself
Good
first,
job.
and then I'll introduce you guys for the first time ever. Actually, for like the 20 whatever time ever. Katelyn, Tocci, our managing editor, and Alex Cyr, our senior editor. Guys, we're going to be the inquisitees today. I believe that's someone who answers difficult questions. We're doing a mailbag pod. We're going to do an episode where we're going to take listener and viewer questions. We've gathered them together from all of our various social media sources. Lots of YouTube questions. Got a couple of Spotify questions under the wire in the last couple of days, and some email questions as well. We put a call out a couple of weeks back now in our newsletter. And so we're going to answer some listener and viewer questions. But first, got a couple of little tidbits to go through that I'm psyched to talk about. The first one right off the top, I know, Katelyn, you're jazzed for this one. Big announcement this week. Netflix, they're doing it. Season 2, Sprint.
Yes.
The docu-series on the 100 and 200 meter best in the world that just ran in the Olympics. We're going to get to see behind the scenes, presumably, of the lead up to the Olympic Games in Paris this summer and all the drama that played out. I am absolutely pumped for this. I'm totally all in. I'm not going to bury the lead. November the 13th is the air date. Presumably, we're going to get a whole bunch of episodes. We don't know how many. We haven't seen a teaser yet. There's no trailer obviously out. But we do have some names. Are you guys, I mean, I feel like this is the dumbest question ever, but like, you guys excited?
Of course, I can't wait. I'm counting down the days. Now it's insane. And it's even more exciting that we have the list of names and we know who they needed to go ask now to include that weren't included in the first season. And they had to kind of knock on the door like, really sorry, guys. We didn't talk to you beforehand, but we really need you now. And the names that are off the list that I felt still should have been on the list. So no spoilers yet, but you'll get to the list.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the list.
We'll talk about that in a second. Yeah. Alex, I'm going to go through the list here and you just tell me who you're most excited to see, sort of the genesis of their kind of where, previously on Sprint. They finished off the World Championships last year in Budapest. That kind of culminated with the 1 and the 200 meter finals in the last couple of episodes and all the big players there. And then we've pivoted into the Olympic year in season 2. And I'm guessing that they're just going to follow this group of athletes through. We've got Fred Curley, the American, Gabby Thomas, Keishane Thompson of Jamaica. That's going to be interesting to watch because we don't know a whole lot about him. Julian Alford, which is an incredible story. Letsile Tebogo, your boy, Alex, in the 200 meters. Melissa Jefferson, TT Terry. Katelyn's boy, Marcel Jacobs, who will be a really interesting person to watch in these episodes, and I'll tell you why in a minute. Katie Bednarek of the United States. Shakira Jackson, Jamaica, which will be kind of like, I think, probably a bit of a gut punch watching her because she didn't end up racing. And Oblique Seville, Jamaica as well. Who's number one? Like, who's the person that you're most excited to see behind the scenes, Alex?
I think I have two, and they're both newcomers.
Okay.
Tebogo's not my boy. If anything, I think I disrespected him when I spoke to Donovan Bailey, the Canadian 100-meter record holder. He was bullish on Tebogo to become the next big star. I was all Noah Lyles, and then Tebogo proved me wrong. I can't wait to see Tebogo because there is this psychological "I told you so" thing, right? And you wonder how these people are going to act on this show, knowing that they weren't chosen and it actually took a full Olympic gold to be cast. And the second person is for the exact same reason, Julian Alfred. I think the joke from Sprint season 1 was that she was on Sprint in most episodes, just in the background. Yeah. And so for these two, I think like these Olympics were tryouts it was casting call. It was casting for this season 2. So I can't wait to see the two. And I mean, I'll let Katelyn take away her thoughts on Lamont Marcel Jacobs, but I think it's really cool that he's back because, I think we already had our whole story around Jacobs, right? Olympic champion disappears. We never see him again. Nah, man, he was fifth in the Olympic final. Got to give it to him. He fought his way back. He's I think he's getting the reputation as a good peaker. So I'm kind of interested to see what he has to say.
Yeah, I am too. I'm really interested to see Julian Alfred, because I feel like, we talked about it on many previous podcasts about how she should have been in that first season. And, taking a bit of a deep dive into some comments made by some of these athletes. An interesting one will be Melissa Jefferson, because Melissa Jefferson supposedly was followed around by all of the cameras to be part of season 1. It wasn't a sure thing, but she was included in that process. And then at the end of the day, it seems as though, with some quotes that I read from her, that she was cut from the season and that she wasn't included in it. And so, that's kind of, now that she came in, she got bronze for the 100 meters in the Olympics. Now, of course, they want her to be part of the story, but I feel like that must have been kind of like a gut punch in the beginning, not be part of season 1. And now, of course, they're banging down her door to be part of season 2, because she had such an amazing performance at the Olympics.
I think, can you only imagine being in the room with one of those athletes that was followed around for several months? And then it's like, wait a minute, we're into like episode 4 and I haven't been featured at all. They spent all this time with me. And I think we can, as writers and journalists, we can relate to this, right? Like, you interview a whole bunch of people for a feature. Maybe you talk to somebody for an hour, and in the end, you just use like 1 or 2 quotes and you kind of feel bad about it. And you get this sense from the person when they respond, they're kind of like, that's it. That's all you included
Everything
in the story
I said
was that. And you're kind of like, yeah, you're like, well, I got it. We got to edit for time here. But yeah, I mean, obviously Sprint has to do that. And their decision-making here is really interesting. Now, presumably Noah Lyles will somehow make a variety of appearances in season 2. It feels to me crazy town to not include him in season 2. He's such an electric figure. He won the gold medal in the 100. His 200-meter story is very dramatic. Some would say melodramatic. But at least it would definitely make for good TV, right? And it'd be really interesting to see the machinations of that behind the scenes, how different athletes reacted to that, how they feel about Noah Lyles. I mean, he is just this linchpin-like character from my perspective from season 1. It would be very weird if he wasn't included in season 2 at all. He's not listed in the primary cast list. So
yeah, I think he is.
I think
you know who I don't think is
okay.
Michael is Sha'Carri Richardson. She's someone. Yeah, she's someone.
Right.
I think I did see Noah Lyles on one of the lists, but I think Sha'Carri Richardson is not. And I think it's exactly the same point that you're making, that's crazy that she wouldn't be part of season 2, because she doesn't appear on those lists. And for that same, like, she was such a main character throughout all of the Olympics. It would be kind of crazy not to see her included.
Okay, guys, because I felt like I was looking at an alternate universe for a second there. I looked at a couple of different press releases on this, and I was like, they mentioned Noah Lyles, but then he's not like formally listed. And I'm like, oh, maybe it's these runners are included as well. So I would be insane if he was not in it. He should be a featured character. It's weird to call a real person a character,
but he's a character for sure.
He is got that main character energy. Little quick detail. I'll flip to our audience to pay attention to when they're watching Sprint season 2. Marcel Jacobs changed coaches in the lead up to the Olympic Games. Very controversial character. He's being coached by Rana Ryder, who got tossed from the Olympics because he's had very serious allegations against him of sexual assault and abuse by former athletes. That's going to be interesting. I'm wondering how much they'll let it in, and I'm wondering how much they're going to edit out. Based on season 1, really fun watch. Definitely going to watch season 2, but they're very careful and vanilla with it, right? I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see a whole lot of his coach, but that's something to look out for. That's an interesting detail. Okay, let's pivot to perhaps something a little bit more cheery. UTMB, Ultra Trail de Mont Blanc, is going on all this week. The great festival of ultra running, the now controversial festival of ultra running as well, started on Monday, as Katelyn has called them. The baby races started on Monday. Sorry, throwing you under the bus here. And the big daddy is Friday. The 109.3 miles, right? 171K. I got it. Okay.
Yep.
I did it. I remembered the number. basically like a big nasty 100-miler. And also the CCC, which is the 100K, and then the OCC, which is the 50K. They all go off at the end of this week. It's a huge event. It's not without its controversy over the last couple of years. We've covered in great detail, Katelyn, in our news feed over the last couple of years. There's been a lot of pushback in the ultra trail community against the sort of like corporatization of UTMB and how it's sort of swallowing up all these events. That aside for the moment, let's talk about the event itself. Let's put that aside. Let's talk about the event itself. What are you paying attention for? What's something that our listener should really key in on, especially if they're like maybe like ultra trail curious, but not a real one.
Well, I think, the UTMB festival this week is a little overwhelming because, as Michael said, baby races, but I just mean they're not thought of it. They're not the world finals because there's a 300-kilometer race that's going on right now that started on Monday, and you actually have to work in orienteering, and the route isn't marked. So there are a lot of different events going on. There's also youth events, much shorter races. And so it's a really fun week. But the three that Michael mentioned are thought of the world final events, right? They actually have prize money included, which is something the UTMB has had prize money in the past, but that prize purse has doubled for this year ever since they took on Hoka as their main sponsor. And so this is kind of, this has been a bit of a controversy, just for those who like a little bit of controversy in the running world. Because thanks to the partnership, they're able to put out a total purse prize of $400,000, right? So you've got the first place winners of UTMB going home with 20,000 euros and the second place going home with 12,000 euros. And that is kind of all divided up between the three races from first place until 10th place. So even 10th place participants will be getting some of that. So it's still, it's not up there, I think, with a lot of maybe the major marathons, which you guys would have a better idea than I would about how much people are earning. And it's obviously a very small group of people who are going to be earning any sort of money in these races. And I think that has been part of that controversy that mentioned Michael. Well, is this becoming, is this kind of evolving into an event that's now more going to be focused on, monetary compensation and not just like, wow, I did the UTMB, it's the pride and glory of getting on that podium. So I think it's a step forward for trail runners in general and trail runners trying to, be professionals in this field and be able to advance as other runners do too. But so that's kind of a big topic. I don't know what you guys know about that, or how does that prize purse seem to you? Is it still very far below what other marathon runners would be making, or triathletes and such? Yeah. Much lower. Baby numbers. Yeah.
1/12, not 1/12, 1/10, and slightly less than that. You're looking at like a Boston and New York, a Berlin, 120 to 200,000 probably for the winners. US dollars usually, or perhaps euros, but it would be slightly less. I think Berlin is in euros and less, if I'm not mistaken. We've talked briefly in a previous pod about Valencia, which is a race really on the rise and a very large growing race. It's seemingly got a lot of coin behind it. I think they're throwing like a crazy number, like hundreds of thousands or $1 million for the prize purse.
Yeah.
So it's quite
pennies.
a bit more money.
It's pennies, but it's a step forward, I guess, right?
Yeah. But I wonder, like, I think it's an optimistic thing though, because I've been wondering if our running boom that, now you see your neighbors going out for 5 to 10K, if that's funneled all the way, not only to marathoning, but if it's starting to also funnel into ultra running too.
Absolutely.
I think it is. And I think you're starting to see the small signs of that sport going the way that the marathon is starting to go in recent years, right? Which means maybe a bit more prize money, more people doing it, better gear. I've been like, because I'm going on a little trail adventure, maybe a bit more on that later or another podcast. I've been looking up trail shoes and hiking shoes. My background's road running, it's track running, right? So I haven't dabbled all that much with high performance trail shoes. And I have a couple pairs here. I've gone for a couple runs in them. And now I'm seeing that like, oh, I think we're near the precipice of a gear boom in the ultra world. And I wonder what that's going to do. I think it completely revived marathon running in a way. And I wonder if that's going to do even more with ultra. So that's kind of what I'm looking for this year, comparing it to what it was like in previous years and seeing if there's a big difference, especially on people's feet.
I think when you're going into, especially the 100-miler type range, and Katelyn, you can obviously speak more intelligently about this than I can, but it just seems to me that, historically because it's a war of attrition against the self and the body. It's about surviving, not thriving, and not necessarily performing. Although obviously some of the elite runners, like I think about like someone like Jim Walmsley, obviously, who's like, really pushing the edge and running very fast throughout for 100-ish miles. So I think tech always aligns with performance. And I would also say that we've seen an uptick in ultra and trail running maybe about 10 years ago as well, when like millennials got really into the running and then the ultra trail scene. So we're sort of seeing like a generational repeat of that. And we saw it before in the early 2000s, sort of for the first time with baby boomers getting like ultra curious. I remember that phase with some of my older friends in running. All that to say is that I think you might be onto something, Alex, where like these brands obviously see this as a super aspirational thing to do, and it photographs really well. I think there's a lot of room for ultra trail events to grow. I mean, I know that there's a lot of controversy around growth in ultra trail, and I don't personally know how I feel about it, because I get the purists. I get that they're like, I think about a guy like Gary Robbins in BC, right? Who's run these small homespun events. He's kept them relatively capped and small and special. Doesn't want to damage the land too badly. He knows that there's like a negative impact every time a race is run on his courses. He's a smart guy. He knows that. He's not a fool. And he's someone who has been very vocal against leaning too far into the corporate influence into ultra trail. But yeah, okay. So let's circle it back. November. It's this Friday is the big race. And who should we watch out for? So I'm going to go for a workout tomorrow night. Katelyn, make me look smart. Who's winning? Who's going to be like at the front pushing the pace?
Okay. Well, very good ultras. There are a ton of people who are trying to do doubling with someone who just came off of Western States and who just came off of Hard Rock. So I know we've spoken about this recently about how trail runners are a little on the crazy side because they repeat, race, or they race often and they're very long and hard races. So we have I think out of the top 10, about 50% of the men and the women who came in the top 10 in Western States are coming to run UTMB. And I don't really know how they're going to do. You never want, people surprise me every day. Sometimes I worry that they're going to be a little on the tired side. And then I think, well, they probably rested for a long time, a tad on the tired side, 9 weeks later, coming off a 100-miler, a very different 100-miler. Yeah. Western States is extremely fast. It's an extremely fast course. And with UTMB, for those of you who are not familiar with it, you've got this super long course, 171 kilometers. You've got 10,000 meters of gain. You've got climate changes, weather can be a little iffy. It can get really cold at night. Although the weather is kind of looking up to be a little warmer during the days. And this course circles a Mont Blanc, right? So it goes, well, sorry for pronounce. That's good. It starts in Chamonix, France. Magnifique. So, and let's see, who are we looking out for? Who's trying to double? I think the two favorites are going to be Katie Scheid and Jim Walmsley. Yep. So Jim Walmsley right now, he had beat out Killian's old record in UTMB. And so he's got, it's a little 19 and a half hours for Jim Walmsley. He's got the record there and he is back and better than ever. So he's ready to go. Katie Scheid is also a favorite to the witch. She's also from the US. But she's been living in France as well so she actually for a while, I think she's been living in France. So I'm sure these guys have been training very specifically for this race as most of the elites for the past month or so, taking the route and practicing. So I think that those are the two top ones that everyone is kind of banking on winning. They are trying to do the doubling. So I don't know how recovered they will be. And there's also an incredible runner, Fu Jiao from China. She came in second in Western States this year. Sometimes I feel she's incredible. We've really got to watch out for her. She's also come in fourth in UTMB, and this is going to be her fifth time in UTMB. She's come in like 20th, 11th, 7th, 4th. So every time she runs it, she gets a whole lot better. And she just came in second place in Western States. She's a huge one to watch in the women's field. We've also got Ruth Croft from New Zealand, who's going for the Triple Crown. She's won the CCC, she's won the OCC, and so now she's going to go for the UTMB. And one for you guys, Marianne Hogan, Canada. She finished second in 2002. And she's been rocking the trails as well. I think she dealt with an injury a year or two back, but she's ready to go. And so she's another one that's going to be fighting it in the women's field. So you have your Canadian in there ready to fight.
Oh, Canada. That's pretty comprehensive. And I like the idea that a lot of these athletes will double up, because it's something you kind of don't often see, certainly not in marathon running, where you get these rivalries going, right? When you do that, because you get these same athletes racing against each other. And I imagine there's a big advantage to running a course and having the experience, running the race a few times and having that sort of mental, that awareness of what you're getting yourself into and how to compete at that course. I've run some of UTMB when I was there in 2017. Yeah, big chunks of it. And it's hard. It's hard.
Yeah, it's quite hard.
It's super fun, incredibly beautiful. Like if you want a cool running vacation, even if you aren't a like super duper trail nerd, like just go to Chamonix go in the summertime. It's great in the summertime, and run around a little bit of the course. It's very cool. And you can go and stay in like these little refugios, the little like, kind of like tea houses, these little like camps, like they're kind of like fancy hostels. You can go camp there and hike and fast pack and run. Very cool experience. And Mr. Cyr, if all bodes well, you're going to be there at some point this summer, right? And the summer is almost over.
Yeah. So next week, a 5-day trail/running trip exploring France and trying to connect with my roots, which I think are French. I will have to double check that, but we're going to be there for a few days, trying out some gear, and hopefully, if all goes well, making a little vlog about it. So, this is it. If anyone's like listening to this podcast and is curious of what Chamonix and area looks like, let me know what you want to see inside of a vlog.
I want to say you got to do the vertical K challenge, which basically starts in the center of Chamonix in town, in the square area. And then you just run straight up the mountain, and you run up the switchback straight up the mountain. And at the very end, there's a special surprise of not technical climbing, but you can say you're a mountain climber at the end.
Will I have to use my hands?
Oh, then yes.
Yeah.
It's a little scrambling.
Oh, no.
Okay.
Oh, no.
A little vertical scrambling. I mean, there's some many people have done this over the years. They've put in wrought iron handholds and things like that. But it's pretty vertical, and you do not want to look backwards. And I am afraid of heights, and made the mistake of looking over my shoulder, and I was just like, I'm screwed. It was like, well, it was either up or down, and there's going down. It's going to hurt. So,
oh, wow. That sounds more like a Red Bull event than a running race, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay. If I have the guts that day, maybe I'll give it a try. But yeah,
it's wild. It's wild.
I feel like I need to do some push-ups or something, or chin-ups before we go.
Yes. All right. So final thing, which is before we get into our listener viewer mailbag session, final little, I call this a public service announcement, just to let everyone know that the New York City Marathon. We did a story on it yesterday. So we're recording this on Wednesday. It's coming out Thursday morning. So we did a story on Tuesday. And it's like kind of a weird business story that, is reported otherwise in places like Variety. But I thought it was important to bring it to people's attention because everyone asks kind of leading up to the New York City Marathon, like, how can I watch it? And we will have a story how you can watch and live stream the New York City Marathon with appropriate links and all the details. But basically, we got a pretty clear snapshot of what it's going to be, which is New York Roadrunners who own the marathon re-upped for 3 years with Disney. And Disney is Disney's a parent company of ESPN and ABC. So locally, the local affiliate TV channel, like the news channel in New York City, has done the live broadcast of the marathon for many years. And if you live in the area or have a VPN, you can watch it, live stream it from their site, or watch it on TV, I guess, if you live in New York. If you've got ESPN in your cable package, you can watch it on ESPN2, pre-race, elite race, post-race coverage, and then ESPN Plus, which is like the app that's baked into the ESPN package, will also have it live streaming. And then there's some sort of like murky, as yet not fully explained live show that's going to be 2 hours on ABC nationally. So if you got like the old HD rabbit ear antenna, you can pick up the ABC channel in your area and you can watch a 2-hour live show about New York. It's sort of like talking about covering celebrities and everyday runners. I'm not sure if it's going to cover the elite races or not. It'd be a shame if they didn't at all, but they're going big with it. And they sound New York Roadrunners sound really excited about it. Obviously like the press release was very glowing, and it's great to see that Disney is re-upping for 3 years. So not ideal that you can't just watch it free anywhere in the world. That sucks. But it's at least out there somewhere. You're gonna have to work a little bit for it. Okay. Question time. Let's reach into the mailbag. I thought about actually going and getting like a tote or some sort of like plush velvet, like crushed velvet black bag, or like an old timey canvas letter carrier bag.
And then printing the questions and cutting them up and then picking them one by one.
And I realized I don't own a printer, and instead I just pasted them all into a Google Doc and shared them.
So modern.
So boo. Okay. There's a nice balance here. Lots of questions from YouTube. Okay. We initially conceived of this mailbag pod when we were going to hit like a big round number. We were like, hey, 10,000 subscribers on YouTube is great because we post our podcast there. Great. We blew past that number. And then I was like, well, maybe some sort of like big number for our listeners. And then like the last bunch of pods we've done have had like 10,000 plus listeners. So it's like, okay, we've got more than enough excuses to do a mailbag. So, first question, and it goes sort of back and forth between, it's very like Katelyn, Alex, Katelyn, because it's like training, marathon-y questions, coaching advice, free coaching advice. And then it pivots to like shoes, gear, watches, a surprising number of Apple Watch questions because we did a YouTube video on Apple Watch, and I think people have they have their thoughts on it. So very first question, I think this one goes to Katelyn.
Yeah,
we can all talk about this, and it feels like it's geared towards the marathon, so we can sort of speak along those lines. Says it's from Maria, and then there's like a whole string of letters. No. Hi, would you recommend having a rest day after the long run instead of before?
Okay. That's a really good question. And it shouldn't seem obvious. Okay. Well, I'm going to give the advice that I use, but the programming that I use with my athletes and with myself. I actually always take a rest day after my long run, and I always run the day before my long run. I feel like that helps two ways. I don't get to the long run like tight and tense if I don't do some sort of physical activity the day before. It's almost like, before a race, you want to have like a shakeout run. So you feel like nice and loose and ready to perform at your best during your race. So I kind of use that as the same. I usually do a recovery run on Fridays. I run my long runs on Saturdays. So I would do a recovery run on Fridays. and then I'll run my long run on Saturday, and then I will take Sunday off. Of course, unless I'm, running for an ultra marathon and we're doing back-to-backs. But after the back-to-back long run also, I would always take a rest day. So I do suggest, I would take Monday if I'm doing back-to-back long runs, or if your long run's on a Sunday, I would always take a rest day after long runs. But now that I'm so sure and on my answer, I'm actually curious about what you guys think and what you guys do, because that's like, to me, that's what I would do. Absolutely. Rest day after a long run.
I've become a fan of the pseudo rest day, meaning a small, easy run that doesn't get you tired. And the reason for that is I find that rest days often leave me stiff. And the next day I come back and it's like my body forgot how to run a tiny bit. So what I have been experimenting with in the last couple of years is instead of a rest day, a like 20 to 25 minute run. That works for some people, not for everybody. I should say, so under my new training plan, I have a full rest day. So I'm trying out the full rest day as well. So I've tried both camps. And Coach John gives me the rest day. I believe it's the day before the long run,
okay.
usually. So, and lately, my long runs have been the hardest run of my week. So I should probably add that too, because I add a workout inside of the long run. So a few intervals of like 10 minutes of threshold, or roughly marathon, half marathon pace inside of the long run. So it ends up being a rest day before, and then the next day you roll into something. But the day after the long run is also not a huge running day. I think the big mistake that I used to make in college was doubling up workout day and then long run, or vice versa.
That's
long run
crazy.
and then workout day. Because you don't think sometimes of a long run as that intense though, because sometimes you just go for volume and you're thinking, well, I'm never running all that fast, but that is taxing your body in one way, whereas a workout is taxing your body in another way. So I guess did I even give an answer there? Not really.
You danced around it. That's good. Very well done. You could be a politician.
Short answer is I've tried both. I think the big mistake is to have a hard day on either side of a long run.
I think I've thought a lot about this, and I think it really obviously depends on where you're at with running, like where you're at in the old running journey, especially if it's the marathon. If you're really new to running, and even if you've been running for years and years, but you're new to the marathon, you're probably upping your volume, probably following a training plan of some kind, and you're trying to figure out, okay, I should probably take you. Maybe you feel like you need a rest day because you feel like 7 days a week is too much, and programming where that rest day goes is a daunting thing and a totally valid question. I would say, because I'm of two minds about all of this, like I think there's real value in exactly what you said, Katelyn, about kind of priming your legs a little bit. But like my shortest run of the week is always Saturday, and then I do my long run Sunday. So, and then what I do, because I run 7 days a week. Oh
boy.
Okay, so I run every day, and I seldom take a day off. Okay. So, but I understand that is not for everyone. I am a pretty experienced marathon runner. I've been at it for like almost 15 years. Sometimes like this week, I'm wondering what I'm still doing during the marathon, but deep in training. But what I tend to do is run in the morning on the Saturday, and I'll run 30, 40, 50, 60 minutes, depending on how much volume I've put in my week, which for a lot of people might sound like a lot to run 60 minutes beforehand. But if you're doing a big amount of volume and running every day, it's not. It's actually your shortest run of the week. And then I'll run my long run on Sunday, and then I'll wait until the evening on Monday to run like a nice, easy recovery run where I tell myself, no music, no stimulus, no running with my fast friends, maybe run by myself, maybe listen to a podcast, like just something, just keep it really chill. And, even if you're super tired and you want to walk for a bit, do that, whatever. It's like, it's very flexible. It's about recovery. It's about feeling good. It's about getting in some aerobic effort without wrecking yourself. So that would be my recommendation for a a more mid-level
Mm-hmm.
and advanced runner. But if you're running like 5 days a week and you're trying to jump up to running a marathon, or 4 days a week even, you got to program in some rest days. I would say run one of those days. I would go with Katelyn. I would run on the Saturday. It's going to make you feel good. Don't go too crazy with the run, and then or run on the day before your long run, whenever it is. Run your long run, and take it the next day. Yeah, it's really tricky because it's like we once did this analysis. The guys that I run with, we tried to figure out like the hierarchy of the importance of each run in the week. And I think what we came up with was like, if you're sick or feeling a little bit banged up, like the first throwaway day was Friday, because we do workouts on Thursday. So that was actually the day that I would take off, not Saturday and not Monday. But I get it. It's a daunting thing in the beginning. If you're new to marathon running, you're trying to get these long runs done, you're finding them really taxing, it's okay to take a day off afterwards. I would work towards, I think an acceptable amount of volume over a long period of time is a good strategy and a good goal, a good process-based goal over several years. Because that's how you get better at the marathon. Okay,
Yeah,
we cover that one.
so.
We're good. Okay. Okay, got that one. Oh, this one's interesting. This is also a Katelyn one. Okay. Or it's an everyone one. It's not a Katelyn one, but it's mostly a Katelyn one. Okay. So this was in response to when we were talking about training in a previous pod. You spoke about using a race pace calculator or VDOT to determine your goal. What if a person is way better at shorter distances? I have recently run 44:45 and 46:30 for 10Ks. Good job by you. I cannot hold the recommended paces that projects for the marathon race pace. And I find they're extremely unrealistic. VDOT has me around 325, 330 for the marathon based on those numbers. I'm sure that that's way, way faster than I can handle. I'm guessing I will finish in the 350 to 355 range. I think 350 might even be a stretch. There's sort of the question in there, it's kind of buried, is like, how do I improve this scenario? How do
I also kind of think he's asking, is the VDOT result precise for everyone? And I cannot relate to this question anymore because I am good at taking tests. So when I take the running test and I only have to do a 3K or a 5K, I just run my little heart out and I just go as fast as I possibly can. I'm dying at the end. I get, to the point where I just need to sit down when I finish. And yeah, I do a great test, but then I look at the paces and I'm like, is that realistic? So I can completely relate to this question. And for years, I was trying to hit paces that, the test said that I can hit this pace. So this should be my marathon pace. And I've struggled with it for years. And so just maybe looking at the results and what you can do with those results. What I do with my athletes is, because it can also work the other way around, right? You can not be so great at taking these tests and then your results feel like they're too slow for you. So what I do with my athletes is we try it out. We take the results from the test, we take the estimates, and we do a couple of weeks of workouts with what the test results have given us. We try maybe some faster running. We try some marathon pace running, because if you're going for the marathon, that's the pace you want to start to feel. It can be a little deceiving because marathon pace is not easy. And some people feel as though marathon pace, since it needs to be sustained for so long, that it's easy, but it needs to be that like comfortable that you can hold for your entire marathon, but it's not a walk in the park, right? For someone looking for like more of a time based and trying to push themselves a little bit more for the marathon, maybe not a first timer. So what I would do is I would try some workouts with that pace, see how you feel. And if in your case, if you've already tried to hit that pace in some workouts and you've already decided, no, this is way too fast for me, I'm completely out of breath, I can't complete a workout of, trying to do, 10 minutes at that marathon pace or even 6 minutes at that marathon pace. If you can't get to that, maybe shave 5 seconds off, shave 10 seconds off. Try to work on those paces and adjust them, because the results aren't going to be perfect. The tests aren't always going to be perfect, and it may not work for you. So what I do with my athletes is I try to adjust the paces, and I say, okay, I want you to feel this RPE when you're running these intervals. Okay. Do you feel that RPE with the race result, with the test result? No. Okay. So let's adjust by either going a little bit faster or a little bit slower until you feel that RPE that you should feel for a marathon pace, right? What I was just mentioning, like slightly uncomfortable, but something that you can hold. So we'll work more and jump back to the RPE for the adjustment and try to work that out and then see where we can go, and how we can adjust that for the workout so you can feel more comfortable with your paces.
And to the person who asked the question, I think name was Eric, just know you're not alone in this. You're not weird in this. There's a history of tests and testing methods overestimating what you can run over a long distance based on your shorter distance times. These, like the running pace calculators that even like the World Athletics use, will sometimes tend to favor a 1,500 meter runner and say that this person could break the marathon world records because they've run a fast 1,500 meters. There are some weird things that can happen sometimes. I'll tell you a story. I was fortunate to get to know my RPE, so rate of perceived exertion, before this happened. And thank God, this happened in university. I had my VDOT tested, my VO2 max tested. I might have told the story before. And I broke the university record. I love this.
Oh, boy.
Oh, my God.
I broke.
He's flexing again, Katelyn.
Our star.
Yeah. But this.
So how many people were at this university?
Don't worry about it.
Good running program.
This doesn't end looking good on me anyway. I broke the university record, which had been held previously by an Olympic marathoner who had run 2:10. And so when I topped the charts, the question was less, wow, how are you so good? It was more so, well, why are you not running a 2:10 marathon?
Right. Why are you not better?
Yeah.
And the exercise physiologist was our professor at this point, pointed out that, and correctly, I'm pretty sure, that there's more than just VO2 max that goes into running, right? There's something called lactate threshold, and there's something else called running economy. So how little energy you need to expend to run at a certain pace. And so VDOT is just one part of the equation. And so even if your test is saying you should be running way faster than you are in some distance, know that, that's only a part. And so I'm a fan of Katelyn's approach. It's RPE all the way. See how you're feeling.
I mean, to Eric, the commenter, I mean, first of all, good work, man. Like you are clearly somebody who knows thyself. And Katelyn and I talked about this in a previous pod. Like one of the most important things for a marathon runner is to kind of check the ego and know who you are as a runner and know your strengths and weaknesses. And like usually most runners are like, well, the calculator's telling me that I'm, like a 325 runner. So I'm a 325 runner
Right.
until proven otherwise, parentheses, in a race, in an actual real race where I can't run the time. So I think it's cool that you're being conservative, you're taking it a step back and you're like, I can't actually get there yet. But I think sort of buried in the question is like, got some talent.
Mm-hmm.
I've got some ability to get there. How do I get there? And I would say, my guess would be, you probably could build some volume. Like the last question, it's like my answer to everything with the marathon is run more and probably slower than you're currently running, and take the easy days easy and the workouts in the long run seriously. Like that's sort of like my credo in the marathon. And I would say a great process-based goal. We talked in a previous pod, Katelyn, about process-based goals versus outcome-based goals. And that big fat number is an outcome-based goal. An awesome process-based goal for you would be like, for the rest of this season, I'm going to work towards very, very conservatively, very gradually increasing my volume a little bit, and creating some peaks and valleys in my training. So not to get too complicated or in the weeds here. It's a reason why you should always consult with someone who's got some coaching chops or follow a plan that does this. Is you need to have what's called mesocycles, which is like kind of 3 to 5 week blocks where you're basically going up and down in your training, and you're creating a stress and then a recovery from the stress in order to get faster and more durable as a runner, and to build your running economy and your lactate threshold, not just your VO2 max. So I would look for that. And then I would think about next season. Awesome goal for 2025 would be to incrementally and carefully build that volume up. And you'll start to see you'll start to see that you're going to be able to creep closer to that 330, 325 number. But I would say if you're running a fall marathon right now, know thyself, Eric. Continue to know thyself. Pace out the 355, because if you think 350 is even a stretch, pace out 355. Pace out 359 if you want the big fat number, the sub 4. Pace out 4 hours and then attack it in the last 10K. And you'll kind of discover in that last 10K some really interesting things about yourself. All right. I think we covered that one off pretty well. That was a great one. Question. That was a really good question. Yeah. Yeah. This one just started with great video, guys. Thank you.
Yay. Thanks, guys.
It's the video has helped me deliberate whether or not to upgrade from the Apple Watch 6. So this is a gear question, Alex. Mm-hmm. Get ready. I'm a runner and I'm concerned about the pace glitch that you, Alex, mentioned. Is this new Ultra 2? Is this new to the Ultra 2 or is it endemic with the earlier Apple Watches? So I think this person, Chris Stevenson, shout out to Chris. I think he's thinking they are thinking a lot about, whether or not to go new iteration of Apple Watch Ultra, wait for the third one. Is the second one buggy? What's going on here? What do you do? Is this an endemic problem with the operating system? Big question mark.
The glitch that I think Chris is referring to is we were talking about Strava and how there's a bit of a connectivity issue when either you start your run or if you stop your run midway and start it again, it messes with the pace on Strava. That's the only important glitch that I've noticed from the watch. And it is kind of an annoying one because I use Strava every day. I've seen that in every Apple Watch that I've used, unfortunately. But I'll say that I don't know if this is just coincidence, but since releasing our video the last couple of weeks, the start glitch isn't there for me. I'm not saying that the video got to Apple headquarters and they made the update. I don't know, but I haven't had this problem.
Tim Cook is in the ring and he's like, this guy is on to something. Wait a minute. Call the Strava people. Let's get this fixed.
I mean, yeah, who knows? But that, like, if Tim Cook did it, he did have the job, because if I stopped my watch and started again mid-workout, I still have that glitch. So keep working, Tim. No, I think, yeah, I've seen it in all Apple Watches. It doesn't seem to make a difference whether or not you're in a city. Sometimes people complain that being around buildings will throw things off, but I've had that happen even in rural Canada. Sure. So if this is if you're worried about the glitch, I don't think buying one version of the Apple Watch over the other will make a difference.
Unfortunately. And it sounds like I used to work in software many, many lives ago. And my recommendation to Alex was going to be like, back up the product, back up the device, and then reinstall the operating system and see if the bug goes away, and reinstall the problem app, and make sure you update the app, and blah, 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 blah. Sounds like it's an endemic problem with the Strava app. Not to be like an Apple defender here, because it very well could be an issue with Apple, the Watch OS not playing nice with Strava, or vice versa, or Strava has just got something. There's a bug with the Watch OS port. I'd be curious to hear if it actually also happens on the native app that's on your phone when you take, like a Strava app, when you take it for a run. Don't have the answer to that. I don't use Strava on my watch. I just use the exercise app, and it's really good. And I find the GPS is quite accurate, and it looks nice. It gives me all the metrics I want. Staring at my heart rate in the last few days has been horrifying, considering how humid and hot it is. Okay, so let's pivot into an adjacent question, or sort of a follow on that. More Apple Watch. How does it compare to the normal series Apple Watch? Question mark.
So the question people face is, do I buy an Apple Watch or do I buy a bigger Apple Watch that's twice the price? I think the Series watch right now goes for roughly around $500, and the Apple Watch Ultra 2 goes for, I think, $1,100. And so the question is, are the extra features worth the doubling of the price? I've made a little list of the features that I use and like with the Ultra 2 that I don't think are there for the Series. And the most important one for me, or the one that I think I notice the most, is just the display. Like, it's a brighter display on the Apple Watch Ultra 2 than with the series. It has more right on the bezel. You can feel like you can control more and keep track of more, whether that's like, what time is it? Or, I mean, in more outdoorsy conditions, or how, what's your altitude like? What's the compass? That kind of thing. You can see a lot clearer. That's nice. I'm also someone who sometimes listens to music and podcasts from his watch if I'm just like puttering around the house. And I do like that it's louder on the Ultra 2.
You're listening to it on your watch. It's great.
Yeah, because I've gotten to this thing where I don't want to carry my phone around. I'm trying to break the phone habit. And so, which, like, now I just make my watch do all the things. So I don't know if it's any better, but I do like the fact that it's louder.
Apple's got you figured out. I love the idea that there's someone out there in the world right now listening to this pod
on their watch,
on an Apple Watch. Hello, friend.
Join the resistance.
You're in a safe space here. Okay, yeah, I read somewhere that the Ultra 2 screen is the single brightest screen of any piece of technology ever invented to this point, which is I'm not surprised by. It's a radiant, beautiful screen. I just can't stop staring at it. And
it is.
Yeah, no, all the other features are really nice on it. You've highlighted quite a bit of bang for your buck. And when you think about it, not to try to sell people on a $1,100 watch, but like, you want to buy a fancy watch, they're pretty expensive. $1,100 is actually a deal. And actually, compared to the latest full featured Garmin's
I was going to say it's got to be pretty similar, because I'm a Garmin girl. My last one was I think I have the Phoenix 6 right now. So I think it was a couple of years ago that I got it. And I mean, they're not cheap either. So those prices. Yeah.
Oh, it's like
exactly.
the same price. Yeah.
Apple's
being competitive here.
Yeah. Same with Polar, Sunto. Their top products are all around that area. Two more things that I'll highlight that I think are worth knowing. Apple Watch Ultra 2 gets the knock for being hard to use because there are too many settings. I actually disagree with that when I compare it to the other Apple Watch. If you get to know how to properly use the watch, it's easier to use because you have more buttons, more functionalities. I find that the series, you have to learn how to use it with just one button, which is actually harder to do. Because with the Ultra 2, you have the orange button that you know is for your fitness things, for your exercise. And once you know how to use it, it becomes easier. And I think undermining the whole thing, like if you are a tech person and you care about this, and this actually impacts everything you do with the Apple Watch Ultra 2, is the chip, right? It has an Si9 silicon chip and just processes things faster. So if you're a heavy user, so you have a podcast on, but you're also timing yourself doing a core workout and you're using it for a couple different things, less chance that it glitches just because it's higher performing as a computer too.
And it's future proofing it. When you've got that latest silicon chip in any technology, you're buying more time with the device. If they're going to support it, it's going to last longer. In some cases now we're seeing with phones, like these companies are supporting the phone. They're promising to support it for like 7 years. And I'm not sure exactly how many years you're going to get out of an Apple Watch Ultra 2. But I imagine you theoretically could get something comparable to a very high-end phone. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This is a really general one. And shout out to Nicholas for this one, because I need the answer to this as well. How can I alleviate feet and leg soreness? Question mark.
If only we knew. I like that.
Ibuprofen?
Ibuprofen question mark, because that's so frowned upon recently. Come on.
Yes-ish, but no. Yeah. Yeah, I was explaining ibuprofen to my 6-year-old this morning because he was like, is it medicine? And I was like, no, it's actually not medicine, because it's masking pain.
Healing.
It's not
healing
anything.
Yeah.
So in some cases, it's masking your body's natural response to something, which you should be.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, if you need to sleep because your IT band is screaming like a banshee, I mean, maybe you take an ibuprofen. I don't know, because sleep is important. It helps heal things ultimately. But legs and feet. Feet are a little bit more localized. Legs, it's like really depends on what we're talking about here. what do you guys do? I'm a foam roller. I should do it
We all
more than I
should.
do. Massage. Never do it. Should do it. I do self massage a little bit. Should go see a pro. Don't. Sort of active stretching to prep before and after runs. I do some of that. I do a routine called the Myrtle routine for like hip flexibility, because I find that's the origin story of all my pain is in my left glute and hip area. And the lack of strength in the sad little bum muscle that I have that just like does nothing for me. Feet, man, when you start going down the plantar fasciitis slippery slope, you got to roll the feet on like a lacrosse ball, a golf ball. If you're really tough, you got to like just get the blood flow into these areas, because blood is just not getting into these areas where there's a lot of soft tissue, but not a lot of blood flow. And that's the reason why it's getting stiff and sore and not recovering, right? I mean, what do you guys do? What's your...
I think I've got secrets. I think most of the secrets are going to be similar to yours as well, because I've got, different things for stiffness and soreness. Like for soreness, I really am a true believer in sports massage. So I have one lined up every 2 weeks, just because I feel like it really, really helps me. And for me, the investment is worth it, because if not, I just get tighter and tighter and tighter and tighter and sore until I feel like something's going to snap. So I do recommend that if you can, some sort of massage every couple of weeks, every 3 weeks, every month, may be able to help you out with that, with soreness. I have this like really nice, who knows if it's a placebo effect, but I've got this like, it's the KT tape cream that you put on beforehand, and it like heats your muscles. And so that feels like really nice before, but it's probably like, oh, my muscles just feel really warm and they're warming up. So it takes away a little bit of the soreness, that I'll usually use that before a run. And for stiffness, I'll do what Michael mentioned. Like I think it's an age thing, because I remember 10 years ago, I did not have to warm up. Well, I probably did. Right?
Yeah,
like why is this happening?
Yeah.
So I feel as I get older, I need two things. I need to do dynamic stretches, because when I step out of bed, I just feel like Frankenstein. So
like an old person just shuffling along to the bathroom.
And so I do the dynamic stretches, which really help me before a workout or before a run, before I get out there. And I need to warm up longer than before if it's going to be some sort of a workout. But I think soreness for me, the biggest thing is massage if you can. And if you can't, self-massage like Michael's saying, or foam rolling, which is similar. I don't know if you guys are familiar with, or if you've used those compression boots that fill with air. I've got a pair of those. And to be honest, that helps me a lot. That's a great way. That's a great investment, at least for me. Have you guys used those? Yeah.
Normatec.
Normatec. That was like Nordic Track. No, that's a exercise machine. Normatec. I had Normatec boots for a few years, and I had to give them back.
Yeah, they're great.
They're great. I don't know if it's all placebo effect either, but they feel great on your legs. It's really funny when you're sitting at a desk or laying in bed with the boots on. It's kind of ridiculous, but and they're kind of pricey, so they're maybe a last resort type thing.
Well, they're like a massage at the end of the day. It feels like a massage, and there are different settings where you can, inflate different parts of the leg, and you go up the leg, down the leg, the whole leg. And so I feel like if you, maybe can't get to a massage, that's kind of a good way to take care of it as well.
You're like a packet of ketchup. You're just sort of like squeezing the blood up and down. That's a gross analogy. Sorry. That's an option for sure.
Yep.
I'd say hydration is obviously like a no-brainer. Make sure you got your hydration game nailed down, and easy runs easy.
Yeah, take it easier.
Easy runs easy. Take it easy. Maybe take it easier. Don't try to win every run, and keep up the good work. Keep up the good fight. Good luck to you.
Guys,
try to avoid the ibuprofen.
Yes, you're forgetting the main one.
The main one.
The chief injury preventer.
Oh,
sleep.
Oh yeah.
Sleep. Come on. That's it.
Right.
That's it.
I forgot about that. Yeah, it's a big one.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't position myself as an anti-injury expert. I'm injured too much for that, but I do know that when I sleep well, I run well, and I feel good. There's a pretty strong correlation. So
yeah,
and
especially
so
as you age.
yes, sure, maybe, I don't know. And so let's tie back that to ibuprofen real quick. There's one exception for me. I try not to take any Advil, ibuprofen. The one exception is if I have pain that prevents my sleep, I will take it.
Yes.
Because then I prefer to take the trade-off.
Oh,
yeah.
you did. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. I gave into the ibuprofen. It's bad, but it's bad for you. It's bad for your body. Your body doesn't like it when you take it regularly. It's okay here and there, but yeah, don't hit the IB right away. It's a bad idea. Okay, so you got a couple more quick ones left. This is a shoe one. This person a couple of days ago. Oh, yes. This is from Phoenix Olivia, one of my alter egos. Adidas did not make the cut regarding the best everyday running shoes of 2024 so far, Alex. WTF? Where's the Adidas love? Come on, man.
If Phoenix Olivia messages us again and tells us to run more, I will know for a fact that it's you, Michael.
One of my burners.
So I saw this comment and I looked back and I was like, did I snub Adidas in the top 5 training shoes? I think overall I would want to give them a little bit more love, save for their one crazy super shoe that I didn't even get to try yet, the Pro Evo 1. Or the Adios Pro 3, which I did include because it's an awesome racing shoe. But in terms of training shoes, yeah, I kind of snubbed them a little bit. And I tell you why. They have a couple classic training shoes. One very controversial one is the Boston. And I say it's controversial because people can't agree whether or not it's a good shoe. Some people love it, others hate it. I happen to really not like it. I find it heavy and clunky. Whereas I
love it.
Right? And you're an Adidas guy in general.
It takes 300 kilometers to break in, but I love it.
That's not okay, Michael.
I was running them today and yesterday and the day before that.
Is that why you took ibuprofen last night?
Yeah, maybe a poor argument. That had nothing to do with the leave the Boston out of this. The Boston is a fantastic shoe with a lot of very significant faults that I think would nix it from a lot of people's repertoire. It's got a very firm, thin collar around the ankle, which I know bothers some people. It's also got a fabric that I think is maybe a little bit defective on the upper, which actually separates if you run a lot in them. It doesn't like getting dirty. It starts to kind of break a little bit. But I just think if you're a certain type of advanced distance runner, it's magic. But I get why it's not for 99% of people. So yeah.
But that's just one shoe, right? Adidas does have
Supernova is a good everyday trainer, but it's not fun. It's not sexy. It's kind of like, well, none of those shoes are, but it's really kind of falling in. It's like, it's not even as intriguing as what ASICS is doing with the Nimbus right now, right? It's
not even
a
close.
Little behind. Yeah.
The Supernova is the one I feel a little bit bad about because it is a good shoe. I like running in it. I didn't include it because in my head, it's kind of like a New Balance 880 that doesn't seem to last as long for me. And so if the list had 7, 8, or 9 shoes, maybe it's not a terrible shoe, but it just wasn't in my top 5. And then there's also the Adidas Ultra Boost, which deserves a look, but I didn't include it because I see it more as a super trainer, which somewhat disqualified it from the training shoe list.
That's a shoe that came out before the super shoe era. It was really like the foam was almost like a precursor to the super shoe foam that Adidas discovered when they were talking to BASF or like one of these chemical companies. And the company was like, hey, we just stumbled upon this weird material. What do you guys think? And they're like, yes, we can use that. The energy return on this is sick, but it's a very soft shoe. It's missing a lot of structure, even with the little torsion bars in the bottom. I feel it's a little sloppy. A lot of people love it. A lot of people I know love it because it's like a nice long run shoe. But yeah, you're right. It kind of falls in this weird space in between. And you're right about the Supernova as well. Okay. Let's move on from Adidas. They will one day figure it out and, dominate even further than they already do. Okay, let's go. Let's just do one more. And this is a complicated one. I am trying to make it to a 5-minute mile this fall, and my PR is 6:54,
Whoa.
but my average is 7:22. How long do you think it will take me to get to my goal with the training that you mentioned in one of our older videos on how to break 5 minutes in a mile, I believe is the video. It's quite an old video that we have out. We should probably refresh, but I think the fundamentals remain. It's just sort of like how to build your training and how to target the pace and the time. And I would say, I don't know. Katelyn,
I really feel like, mile training, training for a mile is not really my specialty so much. I mean, I would think, working top speed, getting faster, whittling it down, doing short intervals. But I think maybe Alex, you probably have some really good pointers for this person and how to whittle down that mile speed faster than.
Nice way to hand that off to Alex. I like it.
It's like, nope. Okay. Coming from the miler's perspective and less of a coach's perspective, what I do notice from those numbers is that the spread is really small. Like your best mile and your average mile run should be farther away from each other than that, which makes me believe that either A, this person hasn't done a full mile time trial in a while and is in fact a whole lot faster than 6:54, or this person is taking their easy running way too hard. Which, Michael, what should we do when we're easy running?
Good job.
Really easy.
Thanks. Thanks, Phoebe.
Really easy. Yeah.
Thanks, Phoenix. What is it, Phoenix? Thanks, Phoenix Olivia.
That
Phoenix
is
Olivia.
his alter ego.
She's here to tell you. 8-minute mile plus for sure, 100%. 8:30. I mean, if your fastest mile is just a hair under 7, just go, man. Just chill. 8:30s and run more. Just
volume, Michael.
Just go out and run. Yeah. Well, no, but even you talk to an elite miler, they're still running a lot and running a lot easy. And because what you need to do is you need to build your mitochondria, which are the little power centers in your body. You need to build your lactate threshold ability, which is your ability to kind of process energy and stress in, usually it's a 1 hour chunk all out. It's that's the sort of pace. It's that pace that when you feel in a 10K to half marathon or doing hill repeats or mile repeats, you start feeling that's like a lactate threshold range, unless you're really, really cooking them and then you're into VO2 max. But yeah, I think you can you're probably running not very much. Your average is way too fast. It's faster than my average. My weekly average is 8-minute miles. My PR in the mile, and I've never been a miler. I've run a handful of miles in my life, is it's under 5. It's 4 something. So it's 4, I don't know what I've done road miles in 4:40 something or whatever. It's not very fast, but it's compared to Alex, but it's not nothing. So my spread is really wide, and I think you just need to run more, and I think you need to run slower in your easy days.
And the alternative is that you're actually a whole lot faster than 6:40. What is it? 6:54, and you haven't given yourself, a proper time trial in a long time. If that's the case, I'd encourage you to do it. Do a mile now, even if you're not at 5 minutes or 4:59, to see where you're at so that you can adjust your training around that. Maybe you run 5:45 and then the journey to 5 minutes looks a lot different. But if this 6:54 is in fact the fastest you can go, and I will say that it will be very hard for you to get to 5 minutes by the fall. That's a short period of time. Instead, try to get to 5 minutes by next year. You probably can do it. It's just give yourself some time, because getting fast does take a while. And the quicker you get, the harder it is to make incremental gains. You might see a whole minute drop off your mile time in a couple months. So that does happen. But after that, it gets harder and harder.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that, Alex. And that's why it's not that I was skirting the question, but it's very, very difficult to put a time on such a big goal, because like you're saying, we need a little bit more information to see if it's like what Michael's saying, where maybe the miles, the easy runs need to be slower, or maybe it's complete opposite and they need to do a new mile time and they're super fast and we need to see that new piece of data. But it's super hard to put a time on, basically shaving off 2 minutes off a mile time, which to me just seems like a lot. If someone said to me, Katelyn, you got to shave 2 minutes off your mile time, I'd be like, well, first of all, I feel like that's absolutely impossible for me. But it just seems like a lot to say that you could do this quickly. Like you've got to, take the steps and you've got to you've got to see how fast, like where you get in 2 months doing specific training for this goal. And then you can kind of put a better time cap on it. Like think about how long it's going to take you. But I don't think it's going to be a super quick process. I think it's going to take some time because for me, you're talking really fast, really, really fast for me. I mean, these guys are, Michael and Alex are bullets. They're super, super fast and they run. But to me, thinking about a 5-minute mile is it's going to take some work.
I'm a slow, old, rusty bullet from a Winchester from the prospector days. Okay. I think we covered that one. My guess is, you're probably running 3 times a week for like half an hour to go. And you're just sort of like hammering that 7:22 average pace, slow it down, maybe add a little bit more volume, do a workout, do speed workout, do a VO2 max workout. Yeah. Do some strides, 10 strides at the end of your run. If you don't know what a stride is, go to marathonhandbook.com. We've got plenty of articles about strides, about training for the mile. Aim for that 6-minute mile. Good luck to you. Okay, guys. That's all the questions for now. In the final 10 seconds, I will say, if you've got another question, you can email us at hi@marathonhandbook.com. You can ping Alex's social media and ask him all sorts of questions. What? Hold on. You can obviously comment on our YouTube channel posts. You can comment in Spotify as well. So, all right, until next week.
Thanks,
guys.